I mean, we need to give them incentives. You want them to invest. Jeff at 7:01, buddy. Let's rock and roll.
I'd like to call to order North Canton City Council meeting Monday, December 9th, 7:01 p.m. Opening prayer, Mark, would you like to lead us? Sure. Anybody else would like to talk here? Lord, thank you for bringing us to this place to help our community move forward. First and foremost, thank you for the wonderful community you've given us. And thank you for the responsibility to help move it forward. You have given us so much, and during this very giving time, this season of thankfulness, and help us all and families to have a wonderful season and finish up the year strong. And as we enter into 2020, you'll be blessing us as you've done throughout our whole lifetime. And we thank you for everything you've given us. In God's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Ben, would you mind calling the roll, please?
Member Volt? Here. Member Fonte?
Here.
Member Peters?
Here.
Member Foltz?
Here.
Member Warren? Here. Member Stroya?
Here.
Member Stretta? 7 present.
All right, thank you. For your consideration, a motion and a second to approve as presented. Committee, let me tell you what those
If you must.
Committee of the whole minutes, November 18th, 2019. Committee meeting minutes, November 25th. Motion approved as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. At this time, if you wish to address council, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. Friendly reminder, we have a 5-minute time limit. It's on the clock.
Larry Tripp, 1127 East Maple, North Canton. Today's Martin Olson Stark County Political Report had an interesting tweet pertaining to completion of the Hoover Complex. Probably a bit premature since the two individuals featured have been in office only a few days, but I believe his message is clear. North Canton citizens and Stark County politicians are watching your performance closely. The same will be true of City Council after their retention of Council President for another 2 years. Thus, North Canton citizens expect more of the same, probably nothing, to come from this council. Leadership is a quality to make others around him better. This has not worked in the past and will not work. Look up and down Main Street. Look at the relations with the schools. Look at the chaos within the legislative ranks. You may want more. Look at tonight's agenda, item 13, December meeting schedule. No meetings December 23rd or the 30th. Why? They call it a winter recess. No mention of a winter recess in the city charter. City Hall is open for business. Why not City Council? Then to top it off, no advanced plans for the council meetings in January 2020. So, newly elects Wilder and Stroya, your first major obstacle, City Council. Calling off meetings when they want. When meetings are called, those not attending meetings. Or when they're here, not prepared. Now, at the expense of council, this city has so much to do. Arrowhead, the Hoover District, personnel chaos, building North Canton government as an attractive place to work, legislation on rental property and much, much more. Yet, let's take a winter recess. Let's look at a couple of my items I just starting with the personnel chaos within the legislative side. In a 5-year period, loss of 2 finance directors, 3 council clerks, and a deputy finance director. Why? Ms. Loretto, thank you for your stepping in as an interim finance director. As a compliment to you, I've heard nothing but praise concerning your abilities and your work ethics as a finance director. But as a council clerk, I may have a question there. I assume you're aware of your council clerk duties because as of March 11th this year, by voice vote, council assigned all duties of the council clerk to the finance director. I've heard or seen nothing since that date to refute my statement. Perhaps another oversight by council, but yet, let's take a winter recess. Tonight's Committee of the Whole agenda, you will note a resolution on Arrowhead to be handled on an emergency note. Please, pray tell me, after 7 years of questionable actions by both R&S Golf along with the city, why and what now constitutes to having an emergency? You would have thought council having been brought to their knees during the meeting of May the 13th concerning Ordinance 40/2019 rental regulations, they would have learned something. This, too, was placed on an emergency legislation and would have undoubtedly passed. But was tabled quickly after remarks by Mrs. Cones, the treasurer of the Stark Board of Realtors, who questioned the contents of the legislation as well as the emergency clause. Now, 7 months later, where is that legislation? In my mind, I suspect it is ready to go, but met with, let's take a winter's recess. So welcome Mayor Wilder and Councilman Stroya. I personally wish you the best of luck, and between the two of you, your work ethics, transparency may work its course after a short period of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Anyone else wishing to address council? Chuck?
Chuck Osborne, 307 Fairview Street, Southeast, North Canton, Ohio. 17 years ago, former Mayor Tom Rice, Council President John Snyder, and then City Administrator David Held put forth a proposal for the city to purchase Arrowhead Golf Course for $4.2 million. As a member of City Council at the time, I embarked on a great deal of research on my own, as I have done many times on many issues. I gathered financials from the City of Akron on their municipal golf course and visited other golf courses in the area. It was serendipitous that when I visited Raintree Golf Course in Green, that I ran into the owner of the golf property, Mr. John Ranieri. It was Mr. Ranieri who provided me with a valuable insight that was instrumental in my vote against the legislation that was pushed through council for the purchase of Arrowhead. Mr. Ranieri gave me financial guidance regarding the fair market value of the property, which I concluded was between $2.2 and $2.5 million. Further, Mr. Ranieri gave me the latest edition of PGA Magazine, April 2003 edition, which had just published part 1 of a special report titled Wake Up. The article was an analysis of the golf industry over the previous 2 decades. The special report should have caused pause for anyone in the public or private sector to think long and hard before concluding they could enter the world of golf and survive financially. The report's analysis estimated that revenues related to the golf industry were down $2.77 billion. A tally of the financial losses for North Canton taxpayers begins with the highly inflated price that Rice, Snyder, and Held negotiated for the purchase price. The latest appraisal of Arrowhead I have seen done in 2011 appraises the property at $1.9 million. The city leased Arrowhead for 5 years, 2003 through 2008, to Kevin Larissa, and he left owing the city $130,000, which was written off. The next 10 years, 2009 through 2018, R&S Golf Properties leased the property. Their lease was terminated earlier this year, and there are estimates they owe untold hundreds of thousands, possibly a great deal more to the city. I see that there is discussion on tonight's agenda to commence legal action to recover lease payments and capital improvements from the previous lessees. Delayed maintenance over the 16 years the city has owned the property has been estimated in a recent analysis of the property at nearly $5 million, of which approximately $800,000 is engineering and other administrative costs. The 2003 PGA Magazine special report foretold what to expect, and it has come to pass. After 16 years with losses in the millions of dollars, that should be crystal clear. Serving meals at an isolated location surrounded by residential homes and competing with hundreds of nearby restaurants is not going to make a dire financial golf situation any more palatable. Further, making a multi-million-dollar facility available to a local golf operator / restaurant owner at no cost and paying him to use that facility, as well as paying all the expenses, is an insult to the citizens of North Canton. It is the citizens of North Canton who are bearing all the risk and all the costs for a recreational facility utilized predominantly by individuals who are not North Canton residents. But there is a way to bring benefit to North Canton and its residents. First, let me say that the southwest quadrant of the city desperately needs storm and sanitary sewer infrastructure. With that said, the city could put in its own housing development and in the process address the need for storm and sewer infrastructure in that quadrant of the city as part of the development of upscale housing for Arrowhead. A walking/biking trail more substantial than the walking trail at Price Park could be installed around the perimeter of the 105-acre property for all citizens to enjoy. The sale of 100 half-acre lots would more than cover the infrastructure costs and still leaves substantial open space and green space. It is estimated that only 8% of the U.S. population play golf. The taxpayers of North Canton have subsidized a recreational venue for non-residents for far too long. The perimeter walking trail could be started without delay and would not interfere with the present golfing activities, which could continue under the current management agreement for one more year. Miracles do happen, but on a sound financial basis, golf is not going to reappear unless everyone up here wants to violate their fiduciary responsibilities to the citizens of North Canton and continue business as usual and stick North Canton taxpayers with a financial money pit.
We understand where you're going. Your 5 minutes has elapsed. Thank you.
Let's not repeat the failed financial decisions of the past 16 years.
Mr. Osborne, I know you don't like to play by the same rules everyone else does, but it's 5 minutes.
You gotta get your jab in,
5 minutes.
votes.
Everybody else plays by the same
You
rules.
wouldn't be here.
Is there anyone else wishing to address council? Bill?
Bill Knapp, 519 Bactel Street, Southeast, North Canton. First of all, just congratulations to the new mayor and new council person, and to those who got reelected. I went to the Winterfest this past weekend. I took my grandsons up there. It was really cool. It was nice the way everything the city did it. It looked very well organized. The only problem that I saw, I was over by the tree when Santa was coming up on the fire truck and everything, and I could not understand what was being said over there on that stage. It was hard to understand that point. Maybe they can put some other speakers out more or something, but that was just a point I saw. But it was good the way everything was set up, and my grandsons enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. got to see a lot of people again, and it was a little cold, but other than that, it was okay. But the other thing I want to mention too is I'm looking forward to, since we're starting a new year, getting the safety building project going again. It's something that is desperately needed here in the city, and I just I was involved in the committee in the very beginning, and it was taxing, I guess you could say, as to far as what other cities and townships done to get what they have. And I started this 3 years ago. And, you know, the last safety building we're supposed to build was 25 years ago, and we went through the same crap. So I'm just saying it's something we need, and just kind of putting your back of your mind about this. I'll probably be bugging you, some of you guys, about it, but I'm really strong about this new safety building, as a few other people are. So thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Anyone else? Last opportunity. Okay. Moving on, may I have a motion in a second? I want to amend the agenda to include item 6B, to Larry's point. We did not name Mr. Ben Young, council clerk, at last meeting, and I wanted to designate him council clerk, because he will be taking over the clerk duties. You need a motion? I do. I move that we name the former Bishop clerk. Your second. Second. Do I need a roll call?
You can voice vote.
Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carried. Ben, congratulations. Okay, now, moving on to old business. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only, third reading, ordinance 74-19. So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tim?
An ordinance repealing and replacing the City of North Canton's public record policy codified as Chapter 107 of North Canton Codified Ordinance with the updated and most current policy and summarized poster attached hereto, incorporated herein as Exhibits A and B.
All right, this is the third and final reading. Tim has spoken about this twice in committee. One of the highlighted items that we've added to it is no cost for printing or any public record. Any questions from council before we have the final reading or the final vote? Is there a motion and a second to approve? So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only, third reading, ordinance 80-19. So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tim?
An ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of North Canton, Ohio for the period beginning January 1st, 2020 and ending December 31st, 2020, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Thank you. Chairman McGuire.
Talked about the budget for a little while now, and there really aren't any changes. We have a couple that Pat and I talked about over the weekend, and kind of just some projects that got started. We didn't use all the money, some projects we want to get started, just kind of how we can do that. And so we worked with the finance director, and we'll show some insight with that. But besides that, there really aren't any other changes. The new mayor has looked at it.
There are a couple actually on page 30. I think we would like to just have a motion to amend ordinance number 80-2019. I would call your attention to page 30. Well, excuse me just a second. We go to the cover page. I would go to the cover page.
What
We are
page?
going to amend lines, items, category 330, capital improvement. And that new number will be $3,062,700. $3,062,700. And then down on sewer revenue, we're going to amend that number to $4,200.
so.
37, I'm sorry, thank you, Marge. Yeah, down on line, account number 652-779-5501, facilities sewer lines. That number is going to climb from 600,000, 999,560. And you'll notice that that is increased by $600,000 for Northfield sewer. I think, is that it, Marge? I think those are the two that I caught. So that's the motion to amend.
And the reason being is that within this year's appropriation ordinance, and as the engineer said, that the specs, had to be redone a few times, and they didn't have time to award the contract. And they didn't have time.
Speaker?
Pat, is it the sewer that you were talking about?
Yes, this was the Northfield project that council had authorized in previous ordinance in 2019. And because of the work that Mr. Graham was doing and trying to make sure we get the best price possible, we were not in a position to move forward in 19. But as this goes out in 20, we need to close a PO, transfer the money into the general fund or enterprise funds, wherever it goes, and then do a new thing after the contract is bid out and awarded. Yes, it worked.
Procedurally, we have to amend it.
Yes, because you've already voted for it twice. So this is your third and final vote, and so I think I've made a motion to amend ordinance number 80-2019 pursuant to Mrs. Loretto's description.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Before I ask for the final vote, I'd like to,
You need a motion to adopt now, you just made a motion.
As amended.
yeah, well, hold on. I don't want to, before we adopt it, I wanted to give the mayor an opportunity.
Please.
I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for the privilege of the time that you allowed me to at least look through the budget. I know in my past experience here, the amount of work that goes into it, and I just appreciate everybody's vigilance on trying to come up with the most appropriate budget for our community. So with that, I just want to thank you for that time, and I think it's been well prepared, and now that we have those amendments, we should go forward.
So you encourage adoption.
I do.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. Okay, well, with that, may I have a motion and a second to adopt the third reading ordinance 80-19 as amended? So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Darrell. All right, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only, second reading ordinance 81-19? So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tim?
An ordinance authorizing the vacation of a 116.5 square foot portion of the existing water line easement on Lot 175 in St. Ives, number allotment in Lake Township, and recorded in plat number 59, pages 64 through 65 of the Stark County Plat Records as more fully described in Exhibit A attached hereto.
Yes, we talked about this in committee. This is that area where we had a little sliver of easement across someone's in Lake Township and could not get lending because of it. So because we're encroaching on some of the property, so we're going to give up a little bit there and just a little bit of a drop so he can get his financing.
Right, exactly, yeah, he built the house into our easement, so, yeah. Yep, yep.
So any questions? I'm going to move forward with this in the second reading. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Member Fonte abstains, 6-4. Motion adopted. Thank you. Before we head into reports, Darrell.
I have a question that will guide my potential motion. We have for our consideration this evening at our council hall meeting a resolution to pursue recovery
There we go. Thank you very much. In my efforts to become more active in the community, I'd just like to bring you up to date on a few things that we've had an opportunity to be invited to and attend. And first of all, I want to thank everybody who did attend our organization meeting and the oath of office for Matthew, all of us, and myself. I really appreciate the welcome that the community has provided me. Had the opportunity to go to SCORE, which is, again, organization providing guidance for small business. I wanted to make sure that North Canton was represented, and we're interested in helping small business in our community. Had the opportunity to go to Cleveland for a new mayor's conference. There's about 50 mayors there from Northeast Ohio, and it was put on by a law firm up there. I won't give them the plug, but it was a good law firm, put it that way. Very excited about the ribbon cutting we had at Hometown Urgent Care on 1444 North Main. Again, they opened up as this new business on November the 1st, but we had a very nice gathering this Friday night and with that ribbon cutting, and they're very appreciative and happy to be here in North Canton. We're lucky to have them as the 30th urgent care in Ohio, and that's their store here. Again, had the opportunity to be at North Canton Playhouse. They had a sellout Christmas presentation and songs, so I encourage everyone to still patronize our North Canton Playhouse. And Winterfest on the Square, thank you, Bill, for bringing that up to everybody's attention. I know some of us had the opportunity to be there. It really was a wonderful time and activity. Dr. Tim Collins from Walsh University was very excited and thankful to be the one who flipped the switch for the lighting of the tree. And I think that's something for us to build on. And I know there can be improvements for that, but I think it was well received by our citizens and visitors to our community. Also, this last weekend, the Hoover Historical Center had a program, Christmas program, well attended. They needed 3 more horse carriages out there for the rides around the Hoover district, or the park out there, I should say. But again, what a great opportunity to be out there with that little piece of history that we have in our community. Last but not least, I had an opportunity to be over at the Clinton Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons over in Massillon, Ohio. They do an annual Pearl Harbor / Veterans Dinner. Had an opportunity to be there with Mayor Kathy Catastaro Perry in serving meals to the veterans there. So just want to let you know that this mayor is willing to get out and about and be a part of our community in more ways than one, and I appreciate that support. And again, I'm learning my way here and willing to work and with our community and our council. So thank you for your privilege of your time.
Thank you.
Member Volk.
Thank you. I'd like to just briefly respond to 3 broad comments that were made this evening during the public speaks. Somewhere, somehow, someplace has become a convenient idea that the mayor and the council control the redevelopment of the Hoover project. The fact of the matter is, and I think everyone needs to understand this clearly and unambiguously, the first issue is there is an unresolved air quality matter at that site. Under the regulation of the US EPA, neither this council, the previous mayor, nor the current mayor has the ability to resolve that matter. It's a function of test results and the equipment that's been resolved to remediate the air quality. The second, and I think we need to be very clear about this, when a project has a large residential component, there are no development funds available in the form of grants, unless the city wishes to make a grant. The fact of the matter is, the cleanup and the project, if they're brought to resolution, will be privately financed. Having said that, I would note parenthetically that the owners could go to the Stark County Port Authority and borrow money from it. But there will be no Job Ready Sites grant that we enjoyed a decade ago. So, for all those who are clamoring for a project to move forward, the first step is to have the owners meet federal EPA air quality standards. Bottom line. So, no mystery here. The second is that my good friend, Mr. Osborne, Chuck, whom I love, often practices what I call thesis journalism. And that means he starts out with an idea, typically a square peg, and drives it into a round hole. Now, oftentimes, Mr. Osborne's assertions go unchallenged. I want you to make sure you catch every word of this. Tonight he stood up and he said, you know, if you sell this thing for residential property, you'll maybe net $8 million. $8 million. Wow, that will cover the infrastructure. I got a news flash. I'm not so sure, because in the very budget we approved tonight, there's a sanitary sewer project up on Northfield. That project is $600,000 alone that we're budgeting. 670, I believe, was the total figure. 750, excuse me. Pretty soon, $8 million doesn't seem like a lot of money when we're talking about one relatively short run of sanitary. I reiterate my claim, or my call last week, if we're going to look at options, let's get drilled down and let's deal with some facts. Let's arrive at them independently, let's debate them, but the bottom line is this, is that the simple assertion that there's some sort of magic formula out here, I'm not sure it exists. The other thing is this, Mr. Knapp, I appreciate the fact that you've called for a safety building, and we've got some plans that are moving along. But I think everybody who sits around this table, and some of the folks in the audience, and one of our other boards close by, near and dear to our hearts, needs to understand one very fundamental fact. And that is, in this community, 86% of the taxpayers earn less than $100,000 a year, pre-tax. We know that for a fact through reading. What that tells me is those taxpayers don't have a lot of flex in their household budgets. So as we move forward, the school moves forward, and others who ask for public money, we always need to be mindful that the people that we represent expect economy, expect us to liberate, and make sure we don't rush into something that they can't afford. So, that, Mr. Peters, is my report.
Wow. The rest of the story.
Hard. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Member Fontaine.
Wow, how do you go after that one, man? Whew. Okay,
Farewell tour. Farewell tour.
Well, anyhow, so the Hoover District is true, what you're saying. It's a lost leader in the front end there. You know, remember we got like almost 1,200 jobs on the side. We always focus on the iconic smokestack and the sweeper company. And you're right, there are EPA issues, and there's more than one partner, and we can't force them to do anything. But keep in mind, the majority of the money is coming from the revenue generated from the job, $600,000 to be exact, roughly, right, of income. So that'll come over time. But like I said, let's continue with the downtown redevelopment areas. Let's see what else we can do to stimulate the downtown. But my report was just thank Soretta and all those in charge, the administrators for the Winterfest. It was well done, and man, I'll tell you how exciting. The kids, when Mark was on the stage giving his talk about, you know, the history and thanking everybody, I cut right in front of all these little kids. I was trying to catch his attention, and I was surprised. There were a ton of kids there, And man, I think next year, it was refreshing to see all the exciting things happening. The only thing I would say is the food lines, maybe you could do double lines, serve people quicker. But anyhow, that's all I have to report.
Yes, also want to thank those responsible, the city employees and the volunteers responsible for Winterfest, and especially the decorating of the tree. Want to certainly make a special note. A member, Soretta, and his family was out there. It's 32 degrees. He's in a bucket truck up, 20, 25 feet. And I believe he was out there all morning. And I was out there for a very brief period of time, and it was cold and it brought me inside. But we all get to benefit from that every time we drive through the city square. I saw it on my way, and you get to stop at the light. You can turn your head and look and see the tree so well decorated. But the behind-the-scenes things that I spoke about before, I know firsthand, hearing Kelly in administration when she was working on replacing the prior tree, and the number of telephone calls that she had back and forth, and the discussion and paperwork to replace that tree at no cost to the city, that there are a lot of hands-on, for these things. But I just wanted to single out a couple folks that I know were kind of led the others in bringing about this project for our enjoyment. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you to everybody, Member Soretta, administration, everybody involved with downtown. It looks wonderful, something we're all proud of. And we'll continue to make progress with a lot of things for next year I'm excited about. Rental registration for each corridor, just our budget overall. When you see what an impact we provide to the residents through their tax dollars, it's pretty significant. And we're in a good place, and just be thankful to move forward with it all and be progressive and work together. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Member Foltz? Oh, I was just going to ask Member Foltz if he thought that our North Canton Holiday Winterfest light-up event was better than the one that was in downtown Canton 2 nights before.
The pressure.
I will comment just on Stadium Park, which is probably the top of the shelf right now. So that's all I'll say.
See, now we have to compare dance teams and schools and Santas and fireworks. We did have fireworks. That's a big expense. But it's funny you said that, because I was actually thinking about all the festivities that have happened in our area, and just really how special it is for all the cities, from the Hall of Fame doing something this year to Massillon. I think even Louisville had an event, and then we had the downtown event, and that went well, even with kind of the Centennial Square being redone. And then I was able to stop by here for a little while, and that was fun. And I did get to see you from afar, Mark, and so thanks for getting that going. I was always thinking that we needed to do more, and so that was great that people took that initiative to do that, and really great. And Mayor, it was great to hear, again, just all the things that are out there to do, and that you're out there doing them. And if people don't read the tickets, or there's never nothing to do in this community, and you forget. So I hope that you kind of tell us that often what you're doing and what is out there, and remind people how great our Playhouse is. And the Playhouse, I mean, you'll venture downtown to Canton, and you might go see, what's playing down right now? Scrooge. Yes.
Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol. But we have so much great things.
And the Nutcracker.
People don't realize how many, from our ballet to our symphony, how great all of our communities are. So thank you for saying that. It's just really nice to see that and all the lights. Bill, thanks for bringing up the safety building again. We have spent a lot of money on consultants and kind of looking at that, and there's some interesting plans. So keep us on our toes and keep checking on that. Thank you.
Member Story?
All right, this is my first time using this crazy microphone. So, you guys can hear me? I thought Winterfest was amazing. I thought it was a great experience, and it was fun to bring my son and my wife and walk through
beginning where Pat set up, Pat Kelly, you know, a committee that really kind of took care of a lot of these things. The library people kind of came into it, and people just started rolling into it, and that's exactly the way these kind of things will work. And we expect more in the future here. There's some growing pains that will happen with all these things, I really think that, first of all, we need to thank some of the people. Some of them slipped through the cracks. We can't have that. So we want to kind of create some things that we make sure that we thank everybody even afterwards. And when you're doing something like this, sometimes that does slip through the cracks. People, you know, from the library, like Christina Wyrick, right here, and they did a lot. They're all over. The library people, like Christina Wyrick and Carrie Urick, I believe her name is, yeah. They were there like with Pat, you know, they don't get paid like Pat, and look, Pat goes far beyond too, but they were there from the morning when it was cold till the very end, and these people need to be recognized, we want to make sure we do that. Not really. So, did I say something? So we do have a lot of people to thank, and we want to make sure that we do that, so we should probably do something as a council, maybe set something up next week, just recognize that in some ways, so I want to make sure that we do that. As far as putting up the tree in the cold weather, you know, the ladies that were, and all the people that participated, you know, one thing they said that really kind of drove them, and I get it too, is when they're out there freezing, people driving by and blowing their horn. That's all they need. You know, this kind of community, you knew what that meant, you know, that you know, they want to thank them, and they thought that was cool. And that's all you really need sometimes, and you get the right people out there, so that's kind of cool stuff like that. And that's what I want to thank Pat and his crew. And I said this up there, the employees who helped put this thing up is fantastic, but people don't realize when they have to take it down, it is sub-zero. That is when you really need to thank those folks, because we're doing all this cool stuff, and they got to take it all down. Steve, you did a wonderful job for your first time laying the tree with Tim, President Walsh, and you know, he can see all the support that the kids were right in front of him and everything. So good stuff with that. What do we do better next time? Right back. So thank you. That's all I have for a report.
All right, thank you, Mark. Interim Director of Finance, Loretta.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but you guys overlooked Canal Fulton when you were talking about it. And on American Spirit, I mean, 12 days of Christmas, and we had a Saturday night. It was well attended and difficult to get around the downtown city, you know, to get home. But, you know, I think it's great, all the cities are coming together.
Engineer Graham.
Yep, thank you, Mr. President. Some really good news on our grant front. I got 3 items to talk about. One you may have heard about. You know that we had asked for OPWC funding to help with the sludge press out at the water plant, and we were funded. We received $1,429,330, and that covers up to 49% of the project cost. And half of that, or $714,665, is in the form of a grant. The other 50% is in the form of a 0% interest 20-year loan. And that comes to about $35,750 a year, which, as we discussed back when we debated the project, we should see that savings, if not more, on just the cost we'll save in hauling that wet sludge. So it's really going to pay for itself there. Of course, I guess the bad side of the coin is we need to come up with 51%, but we can debate that as we go forward. Another project where I submitted a grant to SCAT, Stark County Area Transportation Study. They administer the federal dollars that we have for our highways, and we got funded in the amount of $904,000 of future paving of Main Street, and we'd start at Rose Lane, and that's up to 7th. Now, that's not until fiscal 2026, because they fund those quite a bit in advance. So at earliest, we'd have that money July 1st of 2025. But on a lot of occasions, those paving projects get bumped forward as other projects fall behind. It's easy to fill a gap with a paving project. So at least we're in the hopper, and that's, you know, $904,000 we've got, so really excited about that. And speaking of paving projects getting moved forward, SCATS at their last meeting also moved our Portage paving. We've got that in fiscal 2021. We got that a number of years ago. We've got $462,000 there. They moved that to fiscal 20. which will allow us to sell that very, very early in the new year, because we're in federal fiscal 20 now. If you recall the problems we ran into with Apple Grove, selling it really late in the year and having to rebid, that should be a moot point now, just that, saving us a few months there. So really good news on those three things.
Thanks, Rob.
I also noticed that we got Rose Lane completed.
We had a little extra money left over. Our 2020 or 2019 paving contractor was looking for extra work at the end of the year and literally held their price within $2 a ton, which is 25 bucks a truck or whatever, and asked if we had any extra work to do. And yeah, we got some money left over. We had a good year, got a lot of prices, things done early. So we were able to issue a couple purchase orders and get, after the water line, Hillcrest Northeast paved. We had just done a water line there a month ago. Mississippi Southeast and Rose Lane Southwest. We did those last week, so a little late season paving.
Outstanding. Well done, Rob.
Thank you. Yep, and then lastly, per the revised code, I have to supply the council with our annual bridge inspection reports. Annual bridge inspection reports? And those are in, so I'll be emailing those out, and we'll have hard copies at administration. Really nothing earth-shattering there. We're in good shape, just some minor maintenance, I guess, ideas. So, and that concludes my report, if there's no questions.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. Okay, and just a friendly reminder, next Monday, December 16th, we'll have our special council meeting. This concludes the agenda for this meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Now I'd like to call to order the special committee of the whole meeting, Monday, December 9th, 7:51 p.m. Ben, would you call the roll again for this meeting?
Member Revolt? Here. Member Fonte?
Here.
Member Peters? Here. Member Foltz?
Here.
Member Warren? Here. Member Stroya? Here. Member Shreda?
Here, but we'll be stepping out. You gotta step out.
7 present. Ish.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, first and only up, Finance and Property, Chairwoman Ware.
Okay, so we talked about this kind of a good deal last week, right, Pat? I think we got a good handle on it. Is there anything else you want to say this week? I think you and I talked about a couple things, and maybe you wanted to just kind of hit a couple points. I know you made some comments.
Yes, thank you. And I think while the members of the council and the mayor or whoever may have additional questions, they can formulate them while I just give just a little bit of some additional information just relating to golf in general. And, I wasn't here in 2003 to speak to the points that Member Osborne, or Mr. Osborne had made. He was a member at the time. I think I was just graduating high school in 2003. And I don't dispute a lot of what he said at that time, but the study that he had passed out and was very informative was certainly a snapshot in time. It was from 2003. It was a long time ago, and it covered, as he indicated, a period of time leading up to that. So I've done a little bit of just, additional reading and whatnot on my own, and just want to share a few things of the state of golf today. It certainly isn't a panacea that it's, all roses. There are definitely many challenges still facing golf, but what we are able to talk about is that the pace of golf course closings is stabilizing, that we see that the great golf course gold rush that occurred, the peak from 1998 to 2006, in which the supply of golf courses went up 40%. It's much like retail today. It's overbuilt, and there needs to be a supply and demand balance recreated. When we look at the number of golfers that are playing, the traditional participation, they mean people actually playing on a course, not some sort of e-sport thing, has stabilized at 24 million course golfers, and this has been 3 years in a row now. So that dropping has leveled off. 2.6 million golfers played for the very first time last year in 2018, and that matches an all-time high set in 2017, which was the 4th year in a row that the number had increased. There are more municipal golf courses than ever, some 2,800 across the United States. 2/3 of these courses are profitable. That makes 1/3 not profitable. And those that are not profitable, to many points, are being reconsidered for other purposes. And the purposes are, all over creation here and what they could be used for. When we look at the macro on golf, the consistent increases in TV viewership, hours of coverage, and attendance all up. Golf returned to the Olympic Games in 2016. It'll be on the Olympic Games in 2020. Girls that are under 18 is the fastest growing sector in golf. That when we look back 20 years ago, 1 of 12 junior golfers were ethnically diverse. Today it's 1 in 4. 20 years ago, 1 of 6 junior golfers were girls. Today it's 1 in 3. So it's different people that are playing golf, and not perhaps the stereotype that we see that, individuals like me that might be a baby boomer. But there are 4 million baby boomers retiring every year for at least the next 10 years. These individuals, are acquiring the time and the financial confidence to play more golf. Half of these will be snowbird golfers. When we look at some reports on the national rounds that have been played, it's not geographically equal across all the United States. There has been more of a slowdown in golf in the South due to being tied to the lodging industry, which is in decline, and economic limitations on resort travel. You'd be surprised to know that not all golf courses were built to play golf. They were built to support other economic fundamentals, such as resorts and lodging. But in the North, states actually experienced an increase in the rounds of golf played. Golfers are playing longer in a limited season, even extending into snow, and playing in temperatures of 40 to 50 degrees. More of the golf course closings that are not municipally owned are tied to real estate development. I know we have an expert here, so I don't want to dwell too much on that, but low unemployment and strong consumer spending are trends that tie closely to more golf being played. So it kind of makes sense if you're unemployed or you're watching your P's and Q's, and the average cost for a round of golf is $35 today at a public course. You probably aren't going to play as much golf, but we're going through a peak again now where record low unemployment, sustained consumer spending increasing, and that leads to eventually more golf played. That's not to say that all the things that we want to avoid happening, that we want to spend a lot of due diligence making sure that they don't, and that means that under the mayor's watch that there is a hyper focus on what is occurring there, daily attention to detail, and this is not something that is going to be left to its own devices and no one knows what's going on. That's not how I operate, that's not how Mayor Wilder operates, and we agree in that respect. So it's all about, I think, giving this venue an opportunity to succeed while you figure out what you want to do. And again, everything that you want to do comes at a cost. To Member Revolt's point about, residential development, and it may be true, and I don't disagree in the respect of having the city being in the development business. I think it is a good opportunity to make some money, but we also need to keep in mind what we are developing and what future liabilities we are creating. So although we may enjoy revenues and proceeds today that seem rather large in comparison to what we're used to, we have to keep in mind that this is a liability now, or an asset that we create on the books that becomes a liability for all the future needs of that development. And that is going to be all kinds of infrastructure that is going to be replaced from now and forever. And, that money that is gained today won't be here 20 years from now to use it to replace those water lines, those sewer lines, those sidewalks, or whatever else there is that's, out there to be done. So I just want, everybody to know that I'm not approaching this as if it is some sort of, with rose-colored glasses on, that it's all, pie-eyed optimism. It's real. I think we have a real plan that has a real opportunity to succeed while you figure out what you want to do, whatever that may be. And I just wanted you to have some more color on golf besides just, one point of view.
We're often selected as the #1 golf course in the United States and often selected as the location for the U.S. Open, Pebble Beach. Many people don't realize that Pebble Beach is a municipal golf course.
Could I make a comment? So, when I look at this facility, I see the potential. If we stay along the lines where we are, I think we have to open up our thinking. Keep in mind, green space is real important to people. I think we could, without a whole lot of money, include, biking, walking, integrated into the 105 acres, because some of those acres aren't real usable. And I know 105 acres is tight for a golf course, but at the very least, let's just say we improve the signage. Let's say, for example, we even change the name, because it was Arrowhead for a million years, and people thought that was a private course or a private amenity. So maybe it could be something like the North Canton Public Golf and Entertainment Center, or whatever, you guys decide. But I also think that we need to be thinking about adding, maybe a pickleball court, possibly a bocce court. I don't think these would be super expensive things to do to create more of an atmosphere. And I just saw a report. It was in one of the metro parks. It was like a walking path, but it was an ice skating path. And so, for winter entertainment, it was, it looked like it was well attended. A family fun thing to do. If you just need some exercise, you want to get out of the house, get some of that winter air. I think these are things that we can do. And then if we see how this goes over the next 5 years, see if they can dial this thing in and make it more of a net neutral or even a possible, a viable thing for the city. I would always say that, anytime you can retain that green space, and, there's other things you could probably do there as well that would be along the entertainment factor. And I'm all for it.
All right, any other questions right now?
Well, yeah, just a few points. To follow up with Dominic, we're looking at the lease agreement.
It's not a lease agreement, it's a management contract.
Management agreement, excuse me, correct. If we decide to put additional capital in there, that could come at a later date, even this year, if we decide, hey, let's look at something for pickleball or bocce or someone decide. It would involve further discussion, obviously, with the operator of the golf course and us. So, I'm favorable to those things. I think we have to make this property as attractive as we can for golf, for swimming, for rental opportunities. Everything's on the table, in my opinion. So it's what I kind of referenced before when we talked about capital. I think we should take another look at this once we get to a point that hopefully this is supported through council and signed, that we look at the other alternative capital improvements that can be made. That's it. Thank you.
Pat, in the agreement, doesn't it, or in the management agreement, doesn't it say something like between the city and the management, or the company, that if we mutually agree on little changes or modifications, we can make addendums, addendums to that?
To answer your question, maybe it's a two-part answer, but as it relates to the management agreement, the focus that we wanted to make sure of is that the management could not unilaterally make decisions on what to do as far as capital improvements that they felt. This is a decision that is to be made by the city. It comes back to this body and the mayor on how we're going to move that forward. Now, that's not to say that the city, this agreement does not prevent the city from doing anything on its own unilaterally. It's just that they're not permitted to take unilateral action.
Without our approval.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
So council could, yes, any future date, as with any of its public parks and facilities, decide to add additional features if it chose to.
Okay, cool. That's what I want to know.
Patrick, for those that would criticize you for promoting a 5-year contract, can you speak to that?
Sure.
Someone may say, why not do a series of 1-year contracts?
Okay.
What is your thought process there?
You know, a lot of the stuff that I looked at, there's basically three ways to run a golf course. You can enter into a management contract, you can enter into a lease agreement, or you can sell it to an operator who's going to then operate it as a golf course. And, you know, a lot of it depends on what you're requiring of the management company to do. And when we see, you know, like Arnold Palmer Golf and, you know, some of the other big national players, you know, they're not interested in coming in to your facility with less than a 15 to 25-year agreement to run it. There is a revenue split, like greens fees and whatnot. And in those types of arrangements, you know, you may be requiring them to make capital improvements, but they have the financial wherewithal to do that. In my assessment of where we are today, given the consultant's report, and we got a good look at where we're at, the best course of option for the city at this time is a management agreement with either a regional or a local operator. So that is why we got the ones that we did. And when you look at all of those management contracts and you talk to them, some might say, well, they're a management company, they'll just manage it and whatever, but we want them to have an interest in succeeding. And some of these, and I believe this is the case to be with who we have at present, want to maintain their public posture that they are successful in what they do. And, when we started the discussions with Kemper and Billy Casper and whatnot, they were all looking at 7-year agreements and up. And knowing a little bit about how we would need to get new equipment at the course and whatnot, I felt that it would be more advantageous to the city that whatever contract we sign coincides with any leasing of any equipment that we have, so that we were never in a position where we were switching operators while we were still carrying a lease or vice versa. When we look at this and you say, well, let's look at a 1-year contract or a 2-year contract, at that level, you're not going to find anybody that wants to come in and really succeed at what they're trying to do. And this is very much a work in progress. It's going to take it's taken a Herculean effort to get to where we are today, just to be able to assume the operations in a manner that was without hiccup. Events continued to go off. Weddings were held that we made sure happened. Golf continued to play. But if you put this out as a 2-year contract, in my opinion, from what I've looked at, you're just going to find fewer and fewer entities that are willing to do it, and then they really won't care that. Perhaps some of you who play golf, may be able to speak to this as well, but from what I've seen, golf leagues, they like to play golf, and they want to go to a course that they know is going to be there. And, when some of these other courses have closed, there's a scramble to get to a new facility and get on the books, because there's only so much daylight. There's only so many rounds of golf that can be played. And if you have more and more leagues competing to get on, you may get bumped out. So in my mind, when you go to a 2-year lease or even less, you're saying to the golfing community, there's a good chance that this course isn't going to be in operation when this lease expires or this management contract expires. We probably should just look at someplace else to start with. You go down that road, you're just going to put it in a death spiral immediately. So
Thanks, that makes sense.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up to Pat's point. I was involved with the league in Tammy, and we moved because we kept hearing the rumors of they're going to sell, and it's going to be developed. And so we moved 4 years ago looking for a spot because we didn't want to be in a situation where it wasn't available to our league time that we needed. We have guys retired and people that worked. And to Pat's point, you give yourself some assured league play if you have a longer contract. If you say we're only going to have a 2-year contract, people might not even renew at Arrowhead because they're going to think, what's going to happen in 2 years? I better get out now so I get my time slot. Because there's not a lot of golf courses left. They're being sold, they're being developed. You keep hearing rumors about other courses in this area. And I think it's essential that if we're going to make the commitment, we're going to do it right for 5 years. We're going to give the operator every chance that they can to make money. There's an incentive clause in there that I totally agree with the administration. We're not just doing it to have somebody manage it. We're also going to put incentives in so that they do realize a net profit that we can put back in the course as we're looking to do other capital improvements. I think that's essential. I applaud Pat for writing this out, working with this, with some other help, obviously, but to reviewing this and knowing what this takes to run this course with the DePietro family. Because fiscally, we're going to have a hands-on approach to what's going on daily. We just didn't have that before. I think we can't emphasize that enough. Everybody had good intentions, but it got away. And now it's a situation where we're on top of it with daily reports if we want them, monthly reports, forecasts. We can't control Mother Nature, but we can control everything else. And when you have a good name behind this, I think it's going to be a fruitful relationship with that organization. So, thank you.
I'll just say something real quick. I'm not sold on the viability of golf long term, or us even, owning Arrowhead long term. But to not provide the stability that this contract, and I believe this is an opportunity for us to look at other opportunities there. So I guess it doesn't matter whether I believe in it or not. You have to provide the stability. I think we stopped the bleeding, and I think the control is in place. And that was obviously lacking before. But I'm looking at this as an opportunity to explore avenues, to be honest. So.
Well, and I think last week, Daryl, you kind of said too, we need to have someone come in and give all those options. And Pat and I talked, the 5 years, it made sense, and it gave us that time frame when we can make these kind of decisions. And, when they let go of the football team at Malone, they didn't let go of their scholarships. All those kids are still given the scholarships, and you're essentially doing the same thing here. So we've got a good starting point.
So you have enough votes for legislation? We're good to go?
Yep, I believe so.
Yeah.
Legislation money made?
Okay.
All right. That's it?
And then, Tim, do you want to talk about the resolution? Part B?
Yes, this is much as it's written, and simply asking for the authority to permit the city to determine exactly what's owed under the prior lease agreement, and to take all necessary efforts to see that the city is paid what it's owed.
Any questions, council, on that one? Nope. We're ready to go? Daryl already addressed that earlier?
Got 6 votes, we're good to go.
Okay, that concludes this agenda. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Good evening, everyone.
I know I did.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Would you need me to? Me?
Right, 8 a.m.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yep, see you. Good night, Mark. Thank you.
You're welcome. If you have any questions?
All right, sir, thank you. Forget your jacket there in the back.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's, okay, so we're not meeting that week.
Good.
Okay, and then I
Thanks, sir. Good job.
So that's what's good, so don't. Okay. Louisville and all those townships only meet twice a month also.
Oh, really?
Yep.